भगवता ऋषभेन परिरक्ष्य एतस्मिन् वर्षे न कश्चन पुरुषः वाञ्छति अविद्यमान आत्मनः इव आत्मनः अन्यस्मात् कथञ्चन किमपि करिचित् अवेक्षते भ्रातरि अनुस्मरणं वीर्भिथ स्नेह अतिशयम् अंतरेण भगवतर्षभेन परिरक्ष्यमाणा एतस्मिन् वर्षेण कश्चन पुरुषो वाचन्ति अविद्यमानम् इवात्मनो न्यस्मात् कथञ्चन किमपि कर्षित् अवेक्षते भर्तारि अनुशासनम् विरचित स्नेहातिशयम् अंतरेण. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Translation. Oh yes, word to word. Bhagavata, by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Rishabhena, King Rishabha, Parirakshamaane, being protected, Etasmin, on this Varse, planet, Na, not, Kashchana, anyone, Purushaha, even a common man, Vanchanti, desires, Avidyamanam, not existing in reality, Iva, as if, Atmanaha, for himself, Anyasman, from anyone else, Katanchana, by any means, Kimapi, anything, Karichit, at any time, Avekshate, does care to see, Bratari, toward the master, Anusavanam, always, Virgin Vita, expanding, Sneha Atisayam, very affectionate, Antarena, within oneself. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. No one likes to possess anything that is like a will of the wisp or a flower in the sky. For everyone knows very well that such things do not exist. When Lord Rishabhadeva ruled this planet of Bharatavarsha, even common men did not want to ask for anything at any time or by any means. No one ever asked for a will of the whips. In other words, everyone was completely satisfied, and therefore there was no chance of anyone asking for anything. The people were absorbed in great affection for the king. Since this affection was always expanding, they were not inclined to ask for anything. Please repeat. No one likes to possess anything that is like a will of the wisp or a flower in the sky. For everyone knows very well that such things do not exist. When Lord Rishabhadeva ruled this planet of Bharatavarsha, even common men did not want to ask for anything at any time or by any means. No one ever asked for a will of the wisp. In other words, everyone was completely satisfied, and therefore there was no chance of anyone asking for anything. The people were absorbed in great affection for the king. Since this affection was always expanding, they were not inclined to ask for anything. In Bengal, the word Bodhadimba is used, which means the egg of a horse. Since a horse never lays an egg, the word Bodhadimba actually has no meaning. In Sanskrit, there is a word Kha Pushpa, which means the flower in the sky. No flower grows in the sky, therefore, no one is interested in asking for Kha Pushpa or Bodhadimba. During the reign of Maharaj Rishabhadeva, people were so well equipped that they did not want to ask for anything. They were immensely supplied with all necessities of life due to King Rishabhadeva's good government. Consequently, everyone felt full satisfaction and did not want anything. This is the perfection of government. If the citizens are unhappy due to bad government, the heads of government are condemned. During these democratic days, monarchy is disliked by the people, but here is an example of how an emperor of the whole world kept all the citizens fully satisfied by supplying the necessities of life and following the Vedic principles. Thus, everyone was happy during the reign of Maharaj Rishabhadeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Ajnanandasya Yanarjana Shlakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Shapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Uttamarakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagratatam Sagara Raghunatham Vitantam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijanashaitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagara Lalita Shri Vishadamitam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpade Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostade Tata Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpa Tirupyascha Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Bhavinebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namaro Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pashtadesatarini Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, today we are studying the verse 5-4-18 of Srimad Bhagavatam, the characteristics of Lord Rishabhdev. So it's mentioned in the translation that no one likes to possess anything that is like a will or the wisp. So Maybe somebody can Google the exact definition. So I'm assuming this is something like, of course, all a flower in the sky, Akasha Pushpa, so which was mentioned earlier in the verse. So I guess this word is regarding something which is imaginary, uh, right? What is the exact definition?
A person or thing that is difficult or impossible to reach.
A person or thing which is impossible or difficult to reach or catch. Yeah. So this is the. So it says here in this verse that the citizens of Rishabdev's kingdom, they were not interested in these temporary material pleasures or material happiness, which is compared to this word will of the wisp, or the flower in the sky, Akasha Pushpa, or the horse which Godadimba, the horse which lays the egg. So these things are actually um, not achievable. We can actually see this verse Akasha Pushpa in another verse quoted by Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati. Kaivalyam Narakayate. Okay, wait, let me find the exact verse. It's from Chaitanya Chandramrita. Okay. Kaivalyam Narakayatri Tridasapur Akasha Pushpayate Durdantendriya Kala Sarpa Patale Prokta Damstrayate Vishwam Purna Shukayate Vidhi Mahendrathis Kitayate Yak Karunaya Kataksha Vibhavavattam Tam Gurum Eva Stumaha. So is there? Let me find the exact translation of this verse. So I think this one. So basically, what this verse says that Kaivalyam Narakayate. For a pure devotee, Kaivalya means to merge into the Brahma Jyoti. It's merging into the Brahma Jyoti and losing the spiritual existence is as good as going to hell. Because in the Brahma Jyoti, we all know that there are three features are there, right? Sat, Chit, Ananda. So Sat means eternity, Chit means full of knowledge, and Ananda means full of bliss. So this is our eternal nature, which is also similar to Krishna, Satchit Ananda. But when you go to the Brahman, you have Sat, you have eternal life. I think you also have Chit there, but there is no Ananda. Ananda can only come when there is activity, when there is exchange of love between the lover and the beloved. That is when Ananda comes. So Bhakti means the exchange of love between the Bhakta and Bhagavan. And in that exchange, the byproduct, is Ananda. This exchange of love between Bhakta and Bhagavan, this Bhakti Yoga, gives Ananda naturally. You see? So when you go to Kaivalyam, when you go to the Brahman, there is no more Ananda there because there is no activity. You are just formless, you're just staying there eternally. It's a very, very boring situation. It's just like sitting in an aeroplane, you got nothing to do. How much you try to move also, you got nothing. You get so fed up, you're thinking when you're going to land. So every time when we go to India trip, pilgrimage, we're all happy about the pilgrimage, right? But the part we don't like about the pilgrimage is the traveling part. The train journey, the bus journey, But once you land in the place, you're feeling so happy because there's so much of exchange of activity is going on in the place you are. Whereas in the bus, you can't do much. In fact, we were getting sick in the bus in the traveling time. So Kaivalyam Narakayate means when you go to the Brahman, it's like that. It's very Anandaless. There's no Ananda. So the devotee thinks that this Kaivalya going to there is as good as going to hell. So 3 dāsa pur, what is this? 3 dāsa is 3, number 3 and dāsa is 10. Pur is place. So this is the heavenly planets where the 330 million demigods reside. So a devotee also does not want to go to this heavenly planet because you can go there and enjoy very long life, millions of years. But eventually you again have to come down to the material world. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. Right? So who likes to go to this heavenly planet is the karmis. When we say karmis, not the normal karmis, they are people who are studying the Vedas, you know. Traigunya Vishaya Veda, Nistraigunya Bhavarjana, Nirdvando Nitya Sattvasto, Niryoga Kshema Atmavan. They are using the Vedas and just doing the rituals and sacrifice just to go to the heavenly planets. Why? Because you can enjoy with all the apsaras, soma, you can drink the soma beverage, you know. In the heavenly planet, like here when it's so hot, you feel so sticky, right? But in the heavenly planet, it is so hot, your body will feel cool. And when it's very cold there, you'll feel hot, warm. So your body is very much very situated to enjoy the material pleasures. But such illusion, Three Dāsa Pur going there is also no use because it is temporary. You know, Abrahma Bhuvana Loka Punaravartino Arjuna. Even if you go to the highest planet of Brahma Loka, again you have to come down. So devotee doesn't want to go there. And then here we see Three Dāsa Pur Akasha Pushpayate. Right? So Akasha Pushpayate is like an imaginary world. So number one, who wants to go to the Brahman? These are the Jnanis. You do the Jnana Yoga process, you go to the Brahman. Devotee don't want to do that. Who goes here? Those who do the karmis, those who do all this Vedic sacrifice. So devotee also don't want to do this karmi way. It's as good as Akasha Pushpa, like flower in the sky only. And Indriya Kala Sarpa Patale. So those who are Indriya is senses. These yogis, they are doing so much of control of senses, right? Why they want to control the senses? Because they want to achieve mystic power. This is the yogi. So we see the Jnana yogi and the Hatha yogi, right? So when they are doing all these different kinds of yoga, but mystic yogi, what he wants? He wants to achieve mystic power. And that is also another illusion, right? Because you can become so powerful in mystic practices. But if you do not understand Krishna is the goal of life, Save Pumsho Paro Dharmo Yator Bhakti Radokshaje. If you do not develop bhakti for Adokshaja Krishna, then even all your yogic practice is useless. Like there was a story where Prabhupada told that this man, he was working in the police department, and for at least a decade, he used to skip his work and do some mystic yoga practices. And he was able to light, light the fire? He could light some fire. Oh, sorry, he could walk on water. So the superior told him, you have spent so much of years walking on water, whereas we simply use the boat only. You know, wasted 10 years and then you are doing it on the expense of our salary. You know, I think he got sacked after that. So all this mystic power is just, now the scientists, they are also doing, like you see recently they had the SpaceX trying to go to but they are doing in a gross way. Those days they could do it in a subtle way, subtle science. Like the nuclear, right? Nuclear is very gross. They have to develop a huge nuclear plant to shoot a missile. How much of energy, power, manpower. But those days Arjuna simply just with mantra, so subtle. He was shooting the astras. And where he shot the astra? The Australia. That's why it's called Australia. Is it? Australia. So that is where he was shooting. And where? In the desert. Similarly, even the Indian government, when they tested their nuclear power, they were testing in the desert, right? It was at Pokhran range. So mostly in the desert area, this is where they test the missiles. So the Indian government actually got the idea from Arjuna. So the thing is here, he is doing in a subtle way. Here they are doing in a gross way. So Prabhupada said one day, sooner or later, one day the science will come to figure out all these things, what they used to do in Vedic times, you know. But what is the use also? Even though you have so much of scientific advancement, like Ravana, he was so scientifically advanced. He had the most extreme level of technology in Lanka, Swarna Lanka. In fact, he had the Pushpaka Vimana. The plane can just fly like that. He had so much of mystic power, right? Everything he had. But all these things are no use. So this is what Prabodhananda Saraswati said. Why is it no use? Because it entangles you, it bonds you to the material world. Any activity that we do, if you trace back, right? Okay, now I'm doing a certain activity, right? It all that activity, if it's going to cause me bondage to the world, then what is the point, right? Mana eva manusyanam karanam bandha mokshayo. So for the man, the mind is the cause of both bondage. Karanam bandha mokshayo. The mind can cause either bondage or liberation. Huh? Correct? Bandhaya vishaya sango. If the mind is attached to sense object, right? Indriya, vishaya sango. If it's attached to sense object, then it causes bondage. And then the other one is if the mind is detached from sense object and attached to Krishna, it causes liberation, vimukti. Vimukti nirvishaye manaha. Nirvishaye manaha. If the mind is not attached to the sense object and attached to Krishna's lotus feet, then you get liberation. So this is a very simple thing. We have to monitor the mind, where the mind is going. Is my mind getting attached to this sense object? Is it getting attached to certain objects of the senses? So all these activities that mentioned here by Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati, it is actually talking about bondage. And a devotee doesn't want. So we can see the translation. When a devotee has achieved the position of rendering transcendental loving service to the Lord through the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, he thinks impersonal Brahman to be no better than hell. Kaivalyam narakayate. He regards the material happiness in heavenly planet to be like a will of the wisp. So the same thing we heard today, right? Akasha pushpaya. Dāsa akasha pushpayate. Correct? And as far as mystic powers is concerned, a devotee compares it to the venomous snake. Kala sarpa patali. So why is it a poisonous snake with no teeth? A mystic yogi is especially concerned with controlling the senses, but because the sense of a devotee is engaged in the service of Lord Rishikesha, Sevanam Bhakti Rujate, there is no need for separate control of the senses. So here we can see that a great mystic yogi known as Hiranyakashipu. In fact, if I was reading the verses few days ago, he was so great in his austerity and mystic power that when Brahma saw him, he said, even Bhrigu Muni could not do what you're doing. In fact, he was totally in skeletons. And he was in skeleton, he was doing those mystic meditation that the entire universe was blazing on all corners. Demigods could not even take it. That's how powerful he was. And they actually requested Brahma to save them, and Brahma went to see him. But what is the point of all this mystic yoga? Eventually, after doing all this austerity, he enjoyed his senses like anything. He wanted to be the controller of this universe. He did not want anybody to worship Vishnu. He was so much angry that his own son, he wanted to kill his own son because the son was a Krishna conscious. So what is the point of all this mystic yoga of controlling the senses when in the end you became the greatest sense gratifier? Right? We also see in our current day and age, this yogi, they have some power and then they fall down to some woman. Why? Because their mind is not controlled. They are artificially trying to control their mind. We know, but if the mind is actually fixed on Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam, if your senses are fixed on the Lord of the senses, Rishikesha, and automatically you can control that mind. You know, Arjuna said, right? Chanchalam hi mana Krishna, pramati balavatridam, tasyaham nigraham manye vayuriva sudushkaram. Sudushkaram, the mind is so difficult to control. It is even more easier to vayuriva, it is even easier to control the wind, right? So, but how to control that mind is because if you take shelter of Rishikesha, so what a devotee can do so naturally, the yogi is struggling so hard to do, and he will fail. He will eventually fail because the mind is always searching for something higher. I gave this example before. Now you have, let's say, now you have a one-room flat. You want a two. After you get one-room flat, also you're not satisfied. Why? Because you want a bigger house. Okay, then you get two-room. After that, you're not happy. You get three-room. Then you're not happy. You get a five-room flat. After a while, you're not happy. For a while, you're happy. You renovate nicely. Okay. After that, you say, I want a condo. Okay. You get a condo, you're not happy. After that, you get a bungalow, semi-D. You're also not happy. After that, you get so rich. Whatever you imagine, you get that much richness. You buy an island also. Still, you're not happy. Right? So the mind is naturally going to always gravitate to something higher, 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 higher. And until it comes to the highest Krishna, until he comes to the highest, who is Krishna's lotus feet, he is never going to be satisfied. So if somebody has Krishna in their heart, automatically they are fully satisfied. Like Dhruva Maharaj, he was doing so much of mystic yoga meditation to get a kingdom greater than his great grandfather Brahma. But when he got darshan of Narayana, Vishnu, he said, I'm totally happy now. I was searching for the broken Yamunacharya. Yadavadi mama cheta Krishna padara vrinde navanava dhamani udhai utyatam rantamashit tadavadi badanari sangame smarjamane bhavati mukha vikara shushtu nishti bhanam cha. Since my mind has been engaged in the service of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, I have been enjoying an ever new transcendental humor, which whenever I think of sex life with a woman, my face at once turns from it and I spit at the thought. So he's saying that you can understand. So in the material world, the Adi Rasa is sex pleasure. Ultimately, we want to increase so much of wealth. So all this sex pleasure also increases, right? The more richer you are, the more accessible it is for you to enjoy your senses. Correct? So basically he's saying that I'm not even interested in this. Why? Because Nava Rasa Dhamati Ujjatam Rantum Asit. I'm getting newer and newer tastes in the service of Krishna. That means what does it show? The pleasure of serving Krishna, the pleasure of being Krishna consciousness, it is so satisfying to the mind. Here you are trying to satisfy your mind with sense objects, right? And then you get bonded and then you keep taking, because when you get bonded, why? Because you have unlimited desires. There is unlimited lust, anger, greed in your heart. You have to keep taking rebirth and again to experience all these desires. But whereas now your mind, if it's diverted, dovetail, Prabhupada said this word, dovetail. If it dovetail into the service of Krishna, then even the highest pleasure of the material world looks insignificant to you. Right? As you know, that verse in the Rig Veda, no? Om Tat Vishnu Paravam Padam Sada Pashyanti Suryaha Diviva Chakshuradatam Yad Vipraso Vipanyavo Jagrivamsa Samindate Vishnur Yad Paramam Padam. So what does this verse mean? Om Tat Vishnu Paramam Padam Sada Pashyanti Suryaha. All the demigods, Sada means always, are always looking towards the Paramam Padam, Vishnu's Pada, Vaikuntha Loka. So you just think about it. Now all of you come here. I ask you to 24 hours just look at Krishna. Will it be, are you able to do that? No, because you don't have attraction. So here the Devatas, the Sura, they are able to see the lotus feet of Krishna continuously. Those Sura means the devotees also. Why? Because how can I see something continuously without not getting bored? Unless that what I'm seeing gives me so much of pleasure and happiness, right? If something which I'm seeing is continuously giving me unlimited pleasure, then why would I take my sight out of it? Huh? Correct? Tat vipraso vipanyavo, all the brahmanas, they are glorifying continuously the pastimes of the Lord, the glories of the Lord. Why? Because it gives unlimited pleasure. So that you see, if you see this sloka from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 519, Na yatra vaikunta kata sudhapaka na sadhavo bhagavatas tadashraya na yatra yagnesha makha mahotsava suresha loka pinavai sasevatam. So what is this verse saying? An intelligent person does not take interest in a place, even in the topmost planetary system, if the pure Ganges of topic concerning the Supreme Lord's activity does not flow there. If Krishna's pastime does not flow there, like the Ganga, the devotee will not take interest in that. Number one. Number two, if there are not devotees engaged in the service of the banks of the river of piety. So when we say that Om Tat Vishnu Paramam Padam Sada Pashyanti Surya, just not seeing, they are also engaging in the service of the Lord. When you say surrender, it doesn't mean, Krishna is surrender, finish. Surrender actually comes to the next point of service. And in that service, that is where you get the unlimited pleasure of being self-satisfied in your heart. So if there is no devotees engaged in the service in the banks of such river of piety, you see the analogy they are using here of Ganga, where the Ganga of Krishna pastime doesn't flow, and where the devotees are not engaged in that seva, or if there is no festival of Sankirtan Yajna to satisfy the Lord, especially the Sankirtana Yajna recommended in this age, Mahotsavam. See, when there is no festivals to glorify the Lord, a devotee will not be interested in participating in all these activities. So, why we are speaking all these points? Because today we saw in the verse that in Rishabhadeva's kingdom, everybody was like that. They are not interested. Why? In material activities, the will of the wisp, the Akasha Pushpa. Why? Because their mind is dovetailed in the pleasure of surrendering to the Lord and Krishna Katha. And 24 hours, Sada Pashyanti Surya, always experiencing the transcendental exchange of bhakti with Lord Rishabhadeva, who is none other than the Supreme Lord. Right? So, now we will go back to the verse, and we already explained those points earlier. So let's see the translation again. What else we can cover? So now I say, even a common man did not want to ask for anything at any time. Nowadays, what happens in our democratic society, we will elect a president or a prime minister based on our wants and needs. Based on my sense gratification, I choose a leader who can gratify those senses. And then the leader will come into power and he will not be able to satisfy me, because material desires can never be satisfied. And after electing him another few months, you will say this guy is a rascal. First they were saying Trump is a rascal. After Trump left, they said, oh, Trump is better. This Biden is a rascal. So when you give power to the people are Kalau Sudra Sambhava. Most of them are Sudras only. So the Sudra, he doesn't know. So why this problem happens? Why the common man here did not ask for anything, whereas the common man in our place always asking for something? Right? Because there is two things, Shreya and Preya. The activity of Shreya leads to the ultimate good. the activity of prayer leads to the immediate good only. Like now, everybody has children here, right? Your child, if you don't keep track of him, he can play the entire day without any. He will not even feel tired. From 24 hours, he will continuously play because the playing activity gives the child immediate pleasure, right? Am I right? The pleasure of playing gives the child immediate pleasure, and he will not listen to you. Whereas you know that if you let him play continuously again and again every day, he's not, and then he will become a fool because he will fail all his exams. He will not get any education, right? Correct. So similarly, the parents know what is Shreya, but the child only know what is Priya. So Shudras, they do not know what is Shreya and Priya. They think, oh, I must get my senses satisfied. I will get my leader who can do that for me. Whereas a Brahmana knows what is the ultimate good, Shreya. So that is why in those days there is no voting system, democracy, no. The Brahmana knows what is the most ultimate good, which is Atha Bumbir Dvijay Seshta Varnashrama Vibhagashaha. He knows that the idea of Varnashrama is to Samsiddhim Haritoshanam, to satisfy Vishnu. So the Brahmanas will elect the king who will work towards Haritoshanam, Samsiddhim, satisfying Vishnu. So because if the king is fixed, the citizens automatically fixed, right? What is that verse? What is that thing called? Yata Raja, Tata Praja. As how the king is a rascal, the citizen also will be a rascal. If the king is a honest, if the king is a Raja Rishi, then of course he can influence his kingdom to be Raja, also like him. The kingdom is a reflection of the king, you see. So what happens is, the Brahmana, they know what is Shreya. Shreya Uttamam. What is that? What is that? Shreya Uttamam? Yeah. Sabde Parita Nishta. It's the qualification of the Guru, right? 11.3.21, yes. Tasmat Guru Prapadyate Jignasa Shreya Uttamam Sabde Parecha Nishnantam Brahmani Upasamashrayam. Therefore, any person who seriously desires real happiness must seek a bona fide spiritual master and take shelter by initiation. Okay, so now the qualification of the Guru is, he has realized the conclusion of the scriptures. Jignasush, by deliberation. And so he understands what is the highest goal of the Vedas. Shreya Uttamam. Vedas have so many sections, right? What is that? Verse 246. Yavan arte udapane sarvatra sampludodatake tavan sarveshu vedasu brahmanyasya vijnanartha. A real Brahmana knows what is the meaning of the Vedas. Brahmanyasya vijnanartha. There are very many sections of Vedas which tells you to do this havan, do this yajna, do this. You get entangled. But a real Brahmana, a real Guru knows the Shreya Uttamam. Yavan arte udapane, there are various wells. Each well, one well is used to take shower, one well is used to drink water, right? One well is used to wash your clothes. Like that, there are different wells. But all the activities which can be performed in different wells can be done entirely in the river. So a real bona fide spiritual master, he knows the river. Everything can be satisfied by the river. So here, because he knows the Shreya Uttamam, and he is able to convince others of this conclusion. So such great personalities have taken shelter of the Supreme Godhead. Leaving aside all material consideration should be understood to be a bona fide spiritual master. So you should take shelter of this kind of Guru. This kind of Guru who is you see the word for word, right? He knows, we were talking about this, Shreya Uttamam, he knows the highest good from the Vedas. He is Nishnantam, perfectly knowledgeable, Brahmani, he is perfectly knowledgeable of the absolute truth. Upasama Ashrayam, fixed in detachment of material affairs. And the Guru is also detached from material sense gratifications. Such a person you take shelter on, then you also will understand what is Shreya and you will give up what is Preya. You understand? So like that, this is how Rishabhadev's kingdom was ruled. And we see another verse. So Rishabhadev, why? Because a king is also like a guru, right? We see this sloka here also. So king also is a representative of Krishna. They call him Naradeva, right? So he is also having these qualities of the spiritual master to guide his citizens to the lotus feet of Krishna. So we see here another sloka. Sorry, not this one. Pravritrim cha nivrittim cha. Pravrittim cha nivrittim cha dvividam karma vaidikam avartate pravrittena nirvitena snate mritam. According to Vedas, there are two kinds of activity, pravritti and nirvritti. Pravritti activities involve raising oneself from a lower to a higher condition of materialistic life, whereas nirvritti means the cessation of material desires. Through pravritti activities, one suffers from material entanglement, but nivritti activities, one is purified and becomes fit to enjoy eternal blissful life. So the king, the guru, all these people, they encourage us in the nivritti activities. We are naturally inclined to do the pravritti. Like a child is naturally inclined, but aren't you forcing your child? So that is why the king, a very able king, is needed with law and order to see that everybody is engaged in their social responsibilities and also their responsibilities of worshipping Krishna. This propaganda is always there. This is called Rajanidhi. And for such a kingdom, what happens? Automatically, if all the citizens are pious, then you will not be unhappy at any time. Like you see Rama Raja, right? We all talk about Rama Raja. How, we'll show some verses here. In the time of Lord Rama, in Treta Yuga, Lord Ramachandra became the king during Treta Yuga, but because of his good government, the age was like Satya Yuga. Everyone was religious and completely happy. Now, who is happy? You tell me. Nobody is religious. When you mention religious, say, "Oh, we are secular. We cannot touch religion." But when there is no religious, I'm not talking about anyhow religiousness, proper religiousness, proper dharma. When there's no dharma, then how is there going to be happiness? You are living in the kingdom of God and you do not regard for the king of this kingdom. Will you be happy? Prabhupada said, you want to enjoy the kingdom of God without God. How will you be happy? Right? So similarly, in Rama's kingdom, it was not like that. Everybody was completely happy. And we see another sloka here. O Maharaj Parikshit, the best of Bharata dynasty. During the reign of Lord Ramachandra, the forests, the hills, the rivers, mountains, the states, the 7 islands, 7 seas were all favorable in supplying the necessities of life of all living beings. Are we in this situation now? Every other time there's an earthquake. Recently, Turkey earthquake, tsunami, volcanoes. Why? Why nature is so much against what we are doing? Because we are doing the activities of prayer. We are doing the activities of pravritti. So we commit so much of sins, and because of these sins, nature is not giving the resources. Correct? There is so much of famine. There is so much of starvation. Nothing is favorable. The food we are eating is also having plastic inside. We have polluted the ocean so much that now whatever these people are eating fish, right? All the fish is having plastic in their stomach, and then they are eating that fish, and then now they say there are microplastic particles in your lungs. What you do to nature will come back to you. Everybody knows the story, the Aral Sea. ROC in Uzbekistan area. So what happened? The Russian government. So there's a huge sea. It's actually a lake, but it is so huge, one of the largest lake in the world. So what happened in 1970s, I think, or 60s, the time the Russian government wanted to use that water to um, to actually do their cottage industry. They want to produce so much of exporter of cottage, not cottage, but the cotton. You know? So they want to make money from cotton. So what they did, they diverted so much of this lake to themselves to use as water supply, and that dried up the entire. You can see in Google the images. So big place became so small, and so many creatures died. So many animals died. And you know what happened? The entire lake became like a desert. And then eventually the water dried up. Even the cotton industry could not go on. And before that, they were testing a lot of nuclear weapons, missiles in that sea. So all this toxic radiation waste is lying there. When the water dried up, the sand, the salt is all filled with cancerous properties. The wind started to blow and then came back to the cities, and people were dying of cancer. See? So such a foolish king that he wanted to exploit the nature, and he destroyed so many lives of the animals, and also now these people are also dying. He is also dying. So this is, but in Lord Ramachandra's time, you can see the 7 islands, the 7 seas were all favorable in supplying the necessities. You don't even need to do this cotton industry, nothing. You just be a devotee, do your simple living high thinking. That was what Prabhupada wanted. You know, you have your own farm, your own cow. You have food for yourself, and you spend the rest of the time in Harikatha, in developing your Krishna consciousness. This was how life was in India. But of course now we are so much brainwashed by this Western civilization that we are also trying to compete with them in terms of GDP, in terms of technology, you know, and we are losing our culture. This is not going to give us happiness. So many suicide cases are happening in the cities only. Of course, the farmers are also committing suicide because of the pressure of this. Nature is not producing, and then they have so much of debts. So everybody is affected by not being Krishna conscious. See, so this situation was not there in the time of Maharaj Rishabdev, in the time of Ramachandra, in the time of Yudhishthira, in the time of Maharaj Parikshit also. See, when Lord Ramachandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was the king of the world, all bodily and mental suffering, disease, old age, bereavement, lamentation, distress, fear, fatigue were completely absent. There was even no death for those who did not want it. Now we are very happy, we are very proud. Oh, we open a new hospital, we open a new old age home, we open a new mental asylum to help people. If you are really helping people, why is the mental diseases going up? Why are so many people having depression, anxiety, stress? And then you are proud that, oh, we are helping people. You mess up the people and then you said you are helping them. You know? Correct? You create a problem for them, then you give some, oh, you see, you pay for my solution now. This is what's happening. You create so many diseases and then you say, oh, now you take the vaccine. So this is all cheating. And you see, but when Lord Ramachandra was there, nobody was having any suffering, no disease. What is it? Why? Advancement of civilization doesn't mean you're opening so many hospitals. If your civilization is advancing, there is nobody is getting sick. There's no hospitals, you know. So the point is, all this comes from the soul, right? We are just treating the bodily symptoms. But why the bodily symptoms are there? Because something is wrong with the mind. Majority of diseases cause from mental stress. Why the mental stress? Because there is no soul connection to Krishna. Everything boils down to the soul connection, right? If you fix that soul part, everything else gets fixed, right? Jai Shri Shri Radha Madhava. So this is what is Vedic civilization about. It is concentrating on the soul. They think that, oh, we don't regard the body, we don't care about our duties. No, when you're doing things in the soul level properly, and all other levels get properly utilized, right? If your identity is there, if you know what is your identity and what's your duty, correct? Then you will be engaging in the right duty, right? If you do not know what is identity, you will be engaging in the duties which is not related to your identity, correct? Imagine now you are in the office. So let's say you are a project manager. You know your duty in the office. You know that identity in your office. You know your task. Imagine now I'm in the office. I do not know what is my task. What is my role in the office? I do not know who am I. What will happen? If I do not know who am I and what I'm supposed to do, I will do things which I'm not supposed to do. And what will happen? I'll mess up. I'll mess up one department, something. Correct? So similarly, now we do not know what our human life is meant for, what we are supposed to do. We are doing so much of mess. This is what's happening in the world. And this was what not happening in the times of the Raja Rishis. Because they were so careful how to guide the people in this Krishna consciousness. Right? This was the aim of the king. Not that he's a king, I'm so famous, people are massaging my leg. That was Duryodhana. That was Dhritarashtra. They were kings who wanted to exploit the wealth. They were not interested in the people. He was so selfish. Mamaka Pandava Seva Kima Kurvata Sanjaya. The first verse ready of Bhagavad Gita, he's saying Mamaka, my sons and son of Pandu. The king has to see everybody equal. All the praja are his children. And then here he's making a difference between the Pandavas and the Kauravas. My sons, how much envy this person has in his heart. Can he be a king? If you have any envy, can you help others? You only can help others when you have so much of compassion, right? And how compassion comes? Compassion can only come if you are connected to Krishna consciousness. So we do not want kings like Dhritarashtra. And currently all the kings are like that only. He was not only blind physically, he was blind spiritually, mentally. Many times in the Mahabharata you see, he will say that I know I'm doing something wrong. But I cannot stop myself from doing it. Why? Because he was not having spiritual guidance. Until of course the last part of his life where Vidura came and chastised him and forcefully detached him from his kingdom. So this is why Guru is so important. We cannot see what we are doing. Blindly we are doing everything. Like a mad cockroach we are running around. So but the Guru comes and shines that lamp, the torchlight of knowledge. He lights that lamp of knowledge. So you can imagine how important a Guru is in one's life. Right? So now finally I just wanted to show one last purport where we see how a king is supposed to be. You can actually study this purport. It's quite so see, Raja Dharma is a great science. Unlike modern diplomacy for political supremacy, the kings were trained systematically to become munificent and not merely be tax collectors. This was happening. This is what's happening now. This was happening in the Mughal period. This was happening in Britain. They just 43 trillion British. They drained out entire India of $43 trillion of wealth. The Mughals, same thing they were doing. Just collecting. Let's say there's not enough rains. There's not enough grains. They will collect the same amount of grains. They don't care. They don't care. People suffer. I don't care. I enjoy my senses, my life in the palace. But of course, Chhatrapati Shivaji, he was not like that. He actually ruled his kingdom in a very God conscious way. So that's why the people really they liked him. He was nobody actually. You think about it, to be somebody with nothing, no army, and he started a revolution. How? You know, unless one is Krishna conscious, how you do that? Yeah. So they were trained to perform different sacrifices only for the prosperity of the subject. To lead the prajas to the attainment of salvation was the duty of the king. You see, this is the number one duty of the king. The father, the spiritual master, the king are not to become irresponsible in the matter of leading their subject to the path of ultimate liberation from birth, death, disease, and old age. When these primary duties are properly discharged, there is no need of government of the people, by the people. Now they say we are of the people, by the people. If all the people wants LGBT rights, we will fight for those rights. We don't care what is right and wrong. If all the people want abortion, okay, fine, let abortion be there, let the children be killed. Never mind. We want to be by the people. This was not there like that. In the modern days, people in general occupy the administration by strength of manipulated votes, but they are never trained in the primary duties of a king. And that is not possible for everyone. Under the circumstances, the untrained administrator play havoc in the name of making subjects happy in all respects. If now you promise your child, my dear child, don't worry, you play only everything, if you are scared that your child will not have a good relationship with you and then you don't chastise him, let him play your whole life. There was a story like that, Prabhupada shared. This boy, his parents were passed away. His auntie was taking care of him, and auntie gave him full freedom to do whatever he wanted. And he was very happy with his auntie. And what happened one day, he committed a crime that he murdered somebody. Was put in jail, he was supposed to sentence to death. And then they asked him, what is your last desire? He said, I want to see my auntie. Auntie came, auntie came to him and he said, I want to say something in your ears. Auntie went near, he bit the auntie's ear. And auntie said, why you bite my ear? He said, if you only scolded me and you raised me with proper discipline, I wouldn't be here now. You see? So this is what's happening in the current government situation. Everything the people ask, just let them do, because they themselves do not know what to do, right? So the whole society will collapse. On the other hand, these untrained administrators gradually become rogues and thieves and increase the taxation to finance a top-heavy administration that is useless for all purposes. Actually, the qualified Brahmana are meant to give direction to the kings for proper administration in terms of scriptures like Manu Samhita and the Dharma Shastras of Parasara. A typical king is the ideal of the people in general, and if the king is pious, religious, chivalrous, and munificent, the citizens generally follow him. Such a king is not lazy and sensuous, living at the cost of the subjects, but is alert always to kill thieves and dacoits. The pious kings were not merciful to dacoits and thieves in the name of nonsensical ahimsa, non-violence. The thieves and dacoits were punished in an exemplary way so that in the future no one would dare to commit such a nuisance in an organized form. Such thieves and dacoits were never given position of administration as they are now. So right now the government is working with the mafia, all bribery going on. Yeah. The taxation laws was simple. There was no force, no encroachment. The king had the right to take 1/4 of the production made of the subject. In addition, the king had the right to claim 1/4 of whatever wealth the subject allotted for charity or spent for some other purposes. One would never grudge parting with it because due to the pious king, the religious harmony, there was enough natural wealth, namely grains, fruits, flowers, silk, cotton, milk, jewels, minerals, and therefore no one was materially unhappy. So like the time of Mahabharata, Arjuna was called Dhananjaya. Why? Because they wanted, after the war was finished, they wanted to do the Rajasuya sacrifice. And there was not enough wealth because everything was spent in the war. And then Krishna says, you go, then Himalayas, there's one huge pile of gold. You go and take it. So where this gold came from? Because the king was so charitably distributing to the citizens, the Brahmanas especially. The Brahmanas, they did not want what they will do with so much of gold. They just threw it away. So much wealth is just lying around. People were so satisfied, like today's verse we see, they were so satisfied that they don't care about even the gold. The gold was in the dustbin. You know, the most valuable thing was Krishna consciousness. The most valuable thing was self-realization, right? So the citizens were rich in agriculture, animal husbandry, and therefore they had enough grains, fruit, and milk without any artificial need of soaps and toilets, cinemas, and bars. The king had to see that the reserve energy of humanity was properly utilized. Human energy is meant not exactly for fulfilling animal propensities, but for self realization. The whole government was specifically designed to fulfill this particular purpose. So, you see how the government was designed? Such a king had to select properly the cabinet ministers, but not on the strength of voting background, the ministers and military commanders. And even ordinary soldiers were all selected by personal qualification. No more this new nepotism is not there. You know, it's all by qualification. You're qualified, you do this role. And the king had to supervise them properly before they were appointed to their respective posts. So the king will see everybody is performing. Oh, you are this person, you are Kshatriya, are you behaving like a Kshatriya? You are Brahmana, are you behaving like Brahmana? You know? Or are you acting like a Brahmana but then you are just eating, sleeping? Huh? But this was very, people were saying that, so wait, let me continue first. The king was especially vigilant to see that the tapasvis, a person who sacrificed everything for disseminating spiritual knowledge, were never disregarded. And nowadays nobody cares for the spiritual guys. Say you religious guys are useless. Just give you one society, they go and do whatever you want to do. Give you one stadium, you go and do your Radha Yatra. Don't do in the public. Because they don't understand. But you see, those days they understand the value of the Brahmana. The king knew very well the Supreme Personality of Godhead never tolerates any insult to his unalloyed devotees. Such tapasvis were trusted leaders even of the rogues and thieves who would never disobey the orders of the tapasvi. The king would give special protection to illiterates, helpless, and widows of the state. So women were all protected. Now where is the protection for the women? No. They are just exploited. Defense measures were arranged previous to any attack by the enemies. The taxing process was easy and it was not meant for squandering, but was for strengthening the reserve fund. Soldiers were recruited from all parts of the world and they were trained for special duties. As far as salvation is concerned, one has to conquer the principle of lust, anger, unlawful desires, avarice, and bewilderment. To get freedom from anger, one should learn how to forgive. So all these things were being done, right? So that is why in today's verse we see that in the kingdom of Rishabhadev, this Raja Dharma was going very nicely, and that's why people were fully satisfied. They did not even ask something. Hey, my dear king, can you build for us a casino that we can go and gamble? They not. Can you build a big cinema? We can go and can you build a club for us? We can go and party. No, because they know the goal of life. So this is the type of king that is needed. Of course, we will not see like that. But at least in our own community, let's try to strengthen all these foundations. That is why a final point I want to make, that when Parikshit Maharaj, when he was cursed to die in 7 days by the Brahmana boy, it's Shringi, right? So Shringi told his father that I cursed Parikshit. The father started to cry. He said, what have you done? You do not know what you have done. Because now this pious king will die, because of you, the Kali Yuga will enter. And Kali Yuga will enter, there is no king to control all these things. People will become demoniac and they will go to hell. Because of this is the first Brahmana to fall down in Kali Yuga. This Shringi. If you don't, let me just show you that verse exactly. There's 3 verses on that. 1842 to, oh my boy, your intelligence is immature and therefore you have no knowledge that the king, who is the best among human beings, Naradeva, is as good as the personality of Godhead. That is why he's called Naradeva, right? He is never to be placed on equal footing with common men. The citizens of the state live in prosperity, being protected by his unsurpassable power, prowess. So when Parikshit Maharaj is going to die, that means there's no more protection, right? My dear boy, the Lord who carries the wheel of a chariot is represented by the monarchical regime. And when the regime is abolished, the whole world becomes filled with thieves, who then at once vanquish the unprotected subject like scattered lamb. See, when there is no king, there will be so much of thieves. Currently, even the government is in that situation, in the position. What to speak of normal thieves? So, so there is no protection to your physical self and also your spiritual self, right? And then what he says, due to termination of monarchical regime, the plundering of people wealth by rogues and thieves, there will be great social disruption. People will be killed and injured. Animals and women will be stolen. And of all these sins, we shall be responsible. See, the Brahmana made a mistake, and then you see how the Kshatriya, see, the head falls, the whole body falls. Right? So there's no protection for the women, children, the old men, the Brahmanas. Becomes like, at the time, the people in general will fall systematically from the path of progressive civilization. So this Varnashrama Dharma will be totally lost. There will not be any system which aims to satisfy Vishnu. In respect to the qualitative engagement of the castes and orders of the society and the Vedic injunctions. So Vedic injunctions will be lost. Thus, they will be more attracted to economic development for sense gratification, and as a result, there will be an unwanted population on the level of dogs and monkeys. So, Bhagavatam is very straightforward. There will be a population of dogs and monkeys. Right? So that is why he's seeing the entire mess of Kali Yuga, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu descended. And he made it very simple. You know, it's very difficult to have a king who's a Raja Rishi. Never mind, everybody just chant. Just be a devotee, become a devotee. Chant the holy name of Krishna. And gradually all these things will start changing. Right? So I guess these are the points of today's class I can cover. I will end my class here. If there's any questions, any comments, you can raise. The video and audio is slightly out of sync. So I don't know what this happens. Why? My previous video also had the same problem. So okay, anyway, so there's no question, right? Okay, we'll stop here then. Jai Grandaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Shri Prabhupada.